Witamy Państwa ponownie po
Welcome
przerwie.
back.
Mamy nadzieję,
After the
że
break,
jesteście Państwo
we do hope
przygotowani do
that
bardzo, ale to
you're
bardzo
ready
ciekawej
for
sesji
a very
europejskiej,
interesting
gdzie
European
mamy bardzo
session
interesujących gości.
where we
Teraz
have very
poproszę
interesting
Marka o
guests. At
przedstawienie
this
naszych
point, I'd
gości.
like to ask Mark to
Dwóch
introduce them.
znakomitych
We have
przedstawicieli Unii
two
Europejskiej.
great representatives of the
Jednym z
EU
nich
with
jest
us.
pan
One of
Tudor
them is Mr.
Konstantinescu,
Tudor
a drugim Jorgo
Konstantinescu, and the second,
Kacimarkakis.
Mr.
Pan
Jorgo
Tudor
Hatzimarkakis.
Konstantinescu jest głównym doradcą
Mr.
dyrektora
Tudor
generalnego do
Konstantinescu
spraw
is the main
energii
advisor
Komisji
of the General
Europejskiej od
Directorate for
marca
Energy in the
2011
European
roku.
Commission since March
Z wykształcenia
2011.
jest inżynierem
His
i
education is
ekonomistą.
engineering
Zanim
and
dołączył do
economy.
Komisji
Before
Europejskiej,
he
założył
joined the
jako
European
dyrektor
Commission,
wykonawczy Building Performance
he started the Building
Europe.
Performance Institute
Był
Europe.
prezesem rumuńskiej
As executive
agencji do
director,
spraw
he was also the
poszanowania
chairman of the
energii,
Romanian
pracował w
Agency for
sieci
Energy
Europejskiej
Conservation. He
Agencji
worked in
Energetycznej
the
i
network of
koordynował
European
działania
agency networks
sekretariatu
and coordinated
Karty
the
Energetycznej
actions of
w
the
Brukseli.
Secretary of the
Tudor,
Energy Charter in
please
Brussels. Tudor,
tell us
floor is
about
yours.
the European strategy for hydrogen.
Hello, good morning. Very pleased to be with you here today. Thank you for the invitation and best wishes for the conference also on behalf of our Director General, Dieter Jorgensen, who couldn't make it, but who definitely looks with a lot of interest to hydrogen developments across the EU and with very much interest to Poland due to the potential and all the plans we know you have in the energy sector, including on hydrogen, on renewable hydrogen, which we find it very, very interesting and promising. Okay, I'm as I said, it's a hydrogen strategy and what you can find relevant in it. Let me start by saying that the hydrogen strategy came in a moment when, of course, the ideas were already made about the Green Deal and the priorities of the Green Deal, but at the same time came at a moment when we had to start thinking of recovery. The Green Deal, and less than 2 weeks ago, you heard our President von der Leyen speaking now and giving the clear message for the 55% greenhouse gas emission reduction target by 2030, which has implication also for efficiency and for renewables and for many other activities. The Green Deal clearly what aims to do is to accelerate the transition to a low carbon economy and the transition of the energy sector, but not only, because even before, for 2050, we're speaking about scenarios for decarbonization and climate neutrality. But what we were planning in the previous strategies was more action after 2030. What the Green Deal has brought, and this is very important, is the opportunity to invest already in the next decade and not to wait. So to achieve more ambitious reductions in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 means to move the capex upfront and to reduce the operational expenditures, the OPEX, later on. And this, in this way, to stimulate economic growth on one hand, on the other hand, to avoid lock-in effects and to avoid stranded assets, because if we make investments in the energy sector, we know they are there for decades, and if we would have done it in a way which is not the most sustainable one, we may have had bigger costs later on. It so happens that the Green Deal in this respect helps very much now the recovery and resilience plan. We didn't know that this health crisis will come and the tragedy it will bring, but now we have to get out of it and we have to get out of the economic crisis, and therefore Europe came with this very ambitious plan for recovery, and the Green Deal is actually helping it. And it is in this context of investment, of capex-driven economy, where we need to look on how to make sustainability working in Europe and everywhere, that the hydrogen strategy found its place as well. And this hydrogen strategy starts and has as main pillars an investment agenda, looks about how to boost demand and scale up production, about the developing of the infrastructure and markets, about research and innovation, and of course the international dimension. So I will try over the next couple of minutes to pass you through the main points in this respect. One has to see that where we start now, and where we start now is that hydrogen represents hardly 2% of the total energy mix, and if it is for hydrogen for energy applications per se, it's much less than 1%. So it's mainly this 2% of hydrogen we have in total energy mix today is mainly for feedstock in industry. And we have 95% of the current production of about 10 million tons of hydrogen in Europe is over 95% is a so-called gray hydrogen. It's from fossil fuels. It's mainly steam gas reforming or a part less coal gasification without any CCS. So if we want hydrogen to support decarbonization, it's clear that the hydrogen, first of all, has to be decarbonized and green in first instance. Therefore, the strategy puts some ambitious milestones in terms of what we need to achieve for having more renewable hydrogen in Europe. For 2024, we speak about 6 gigawatts of renewable hydrogen electrolyzers, which to start replacing existing production, to have regulation for liquid hydrogen markets, and to start planning the infrastructure. By 2030, we have 40 gigawatts in Europe, have applications already in steel and transport, to use it also for the electricity grid, to create the hydrogen valleys, which von der Leyen was our president referring also the week before, to also look further into 2050 when hydrogen can play a role in decarbonizing all difficult to decarbonize sectors, and to have also a mixture of synthetic gases and synthetic fuels. Because you know, now electricity is about 23% of the energy mix. We say by 2050 it will be around 50%. Different scenarios show between 40 and 60, let's say half of it. But half of the energy final consumption, even in 2050, will not be in the form of electricity. It will be in the form of gases and fuels, liquid fuels. And these gases and liquid fuels will also have to be decarbonized. And this is where hydrogen will be playing a key role and bridging the electricity system to the gas and liquid fuel systems of the future energy. Now, how do we move then on this? In terms of the investment agenda, you see, we need to invest a lot. And this is, as I said, in a way, an opportunity. Mainly, we have to invest in renewable electricity production. We speak about 80 to 120 gigawatts of additional power generation capacities, mainly wind and solar in Europe. We have to invest in renewable hydrogen. No, we speak about the 40 gigawatts electrolyzers, but we also need to invest in transport, in distribution and storage, and to look at the sectors where we have big opportunities in transport, heavy-duty vehicles, and steel, but also maritime, also refineries, also fertilizers and ammonia, which can be an important energy carrier for the future as well. Fostering demand passes first of all through, therefore, stepping up our efforts on renewables and replacing existing hydrogen production, which is still responsible for 70 to 100 million tons of CO2, to green the fertilizers and the steel, to make sure that we can use hydrogen for commercial fleets, for buses, for heavy-duty vehicles, but also for maritime applications and later on also for aviation. Can be hydrogen or can be synthetic fuels, as I said before. So we need to support the end consumers. There will be a EU strategy on clean steel and also on sustainable and smart mobility strategy by the end of this year. We need to create markets. In particular, for this, we need, first of all, to agree on the definition and certification of renewable and low carbon hydrogen. This is also something, I will come back to this, we need to push at the international level. To focus on these specific end-use sectors where possibly to have quotas for renewable hydrogen. To develop a hydrogen infrastructure which is accessible to all the consumers. And to start developing competitive markets for hydrogen with solid price signals. In terms of infrastructure, we need to scale up hydrogen from renewables. In transition still, we need to make use low carbon hydrogen. which can be from gas steam reforming combined with CCS. So we need to support producers through support mechanisms and to develop the EU-wide hydrogen infrastructure in this respect. Speaking about producers, here, first of all, we need to define the low carbon threshold for hydrogen production facilities, to agree on what we speak, to have this certification for renewable and low carbon hydrogen, building up, of course, on the definition of the threshold in the emission trading scheme, which will need to be revised, but also on the work which we have done together with industry in the context of the fuel cells and hydrogen, undertaking the preparatory work on certification. Carbon contract for differences may be an option to support low carbon hydrogen and also renewable hydrogen, and we'll need subsequently to develop more support schemes, in particular for renewable hydrogen, making sure that the markets are enough liquid and we can have the trading. In terms of infrastructure, there are various options. First of all, speaking about vehicles, we need to strengthen the refueling infrastructure for hydrogen. But then we have to look at the energy sector, and we are in the process of revising this year, by the end of the year, the 10E regulations and also the internal gas market legislation with a view to accommodate more and more renewable gases. And we have to ensure interoperability, we have to ensure common quality standards and cross-border operation rules. Therefore, also the 10-year development plans will have to take into account the opportunity for developing infrastructure on hydrogen. I was mentioning before the international dimension. The international dimension is extremely important because hydrogen is now on the agenda of the G20. Hydrogen is mentioned in a lot of reports. The IEA has produced a very good report 2 years ago and is now working more determined on that, together with Japan and other countries who over the years have pushed and put a lot of efforts on research and development for hydrogen technologies. So Europe has also invested, and it is mainly through research and through development of demonstration projects that we succeeded to build a leadership in what is the most important for Europe, renewable hydrogen production and electrolyzers. This is key for the future energy system, and in particular in Europe, where we know that renewable electricity will represent the largest share of power generation. Already by 2030, we're saying before will be at least 55%, but this may be more now with the more ambitious targets we have for 2030. It will definitely be more. And for 2050, and so it will be over 85%. So it's clear this is for us an opportunity, and we need to develop this in cooperation also, first of all, with our neighbors. So the Clean Hydrogen will support our neighborhood investment platform. We have joint hydrogen research and development programs through the various international agreements. We also have association agreements. We also have hydrogen collaboration as the EU-Africa-European initiative. So we need to de facto make hydrogen a strong component in the energy diplomacy, in climate research, international relations, and in the energy dialogue we have with key partners. And I have to say, now we have hydrogen on the agenda of the bilateral dialogues at EU level on energy with the US, with Canada, with Japan, with Korea, with all the major actors in hydrogen, but where we insist that hydrogen has to be seen as a strong component of the energy mix, of a strong link to integration of renewables and to the long-term objectives of achieving more sustainable decarbonized energy systems. And it's not always very simple, and we see now sometimes in the formulations of the communiques in international forums like the G20, but still it's an effort which will pay off over the years and is the only way to achieve the objectives we have agreed also in the Paris Agreement for 2050. In terms of multilateral fora, we are very active in the Clean Energy Ministerial, where the Commission and DGNR is leading the hydrogen initiative. Also in Mission Innovation, through which we have launched the concept we have installed at Europe level of hydrogen valleys, and the projects we have in Europe on this respect are consider an example in the mission innovation internationally. Also on the international partnership on hydrogen economy, in particular in relation to standards. But not only, as IPAG was established many years ago and was for a while the only platform to discuss about research and sharing results on research. International markets will become also important. It's clear that maybe we may not have all the renewable hydrogen we may need in the economy. So we may need to also import. It's something on the agenda. Is also something on the agenda of the German presidency now to discuss what are the opportunities and challenges in this respect as well. And we need to strengthen the abilities of Europe in this respect, to also see to what extent we can establish a benchmark for euro-denominated transaction in hydrogen, and to facilitate the emergence of rule-based hydrogen markets. Now, in terms of research and innovation, it's clear for the next period we want to build up on the current fuel cells and hydrogen joint undertaking, which is a partnership which de facto supported the launch of the hydrogen activities and initiatives at European level. Through this partnership we have developed over the years with the industry, but also with the research community. So we propose to strengthen this through the establishment of the Clean Hydrogen Partnership, to have targeted research and innovation in Horizon Europe. Also we'll have the ETS Innovation Fund for a number of large projects, including those on low carbon hydrogen, while the Clean Hydrogen Partnership will focus on renewable hydrogen production. And also interregional innovation investment instruments. And last but not least, I have to mention that the structural funds will have a more important role to play in Europe. The policy objective 1 now of the cohesion policy refers to industrialization, smart specialization. So this is a place also for hydrogen. In this way, we can scale up production, more efficient and larger scale electrolyzers, develop the manufacturing capabilities, but look also at other options for breakthrough solutions like direct solar hydrogen production, develop and look at the various options for infrastructure, including for storing hydrogen, for repurposing the gas infrastructure, and for the adaptation of energy terminals, end-use applications, particularly in industry, but also in transport, maritime, the multi-megawatt fuel cells, and longer-term hydrogen-derived synthetic fuels, which are important in particular for aviation, but also for transport, including, as I mentioned before, for maritime, ammonia can play an important role. Cross-cutting areas, of course, we need to keep all the elements of safety high on the agenda and improve harmonized safety standards to reduce the environmental impact and sustainability and the demand for critical raw materials, but also the reuse and recycling of those materials. Last but not least, I have to mention that the same day we have launched the strategy, we have managed to coordinate our efforts in the Commission and also with the industry. Happy Jorgo is here to confirm and to launch also the Hydrogen Alliance. The Hydrogen Alliance, bringing together a lot of actors. By now, already 500 companies in Europe expressed interest to boost demand and scale up production, to develop the infrastructure and the markets, to steer research and innovation, and to cooperate internationally. So this will work hand in hand with the other initiatives of the Commission, and will bring together all the relevant actors to make actually hydrogen play the role it can play in the energy system, in the decarbonization of the economy by 2030 and to the Green Deal contribution, and by 2050 to a carbon neutral continent in Europe. So this is from my side, and thank you very much. Happy if you have any question to try to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You did perfect on time. I have one big question. There is a big strategy, and Poland has not yet approved our Polish hydrogen strategy. Is there any magic word or magic topic we have to start with as a first place?
Poland have, I know that, we have established 2 years ago already HyNet. HyNet is a network of representatives of energy ministries who are dealing with hydrogen. And the purpose of establishing this network was to fold, on one hand, to share experiences, best practices, but also to support a certain capacity building in all the energy ministries across the member states, and to have hydrogen being taken into account as an energy carrier and as an energy source in some instances. So, and we learned of the plans of Poland in this respect. And I think there are very important plans, including on renewable hydrogen, and they have to be articulated in a strategy. But not all the countries for the time being have strategy. I think only 4 at the European level. So you are not really lagging behind, because I understand you are quite advanced in the preparation. So which we can only welcome. But what is important is to see how you integrate this strategy with the opportunities, broader opportunities for decarbonization of the energy system, with larger scale integration of renewables, with abilities for ensuring flexibility to the grid system, in which the source of energy will not be anymore the coal, or maybe not even the gas at a certain moment. So this is and how to do all these things by strengthening also the industrial component and the industrial policy dimension, which the hydrogen agenda brings also on the table, and which is very important to make our economies across Europe more competitive.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation. Now we want to ask Mr. Jorgo Kaczmarkakis, and I will introduce him in Polish. Jorgo, if you allow. Jorgo jest sekretarzem generalnym.
Mr. Jorgo is the General Secretary of Hydrogen Europe, the most important organization when it comes to hydrogen in Europe. Before that, he was representative of Important Technology in Brussels and a member of European Parliament. In 2007, he was selected by his colleagues from the European Commission as the Member of Parliament of the Year in the category R&D, and in 2015, he was appointed as the Free Ambassador of Greece throughout the world.
That you, Jorgo, you have some links with Poland. Can you say something about that?
First of all, thanks very much for the invitation, and thank you also for having the opportunity to discuss with Tudor, who is one of the, I would say, the persons in Europe who would deserve a monument as Mr. Hydrogen, because he was one of the first persons and personalities in the European Commission to fight for hydrogen, even when it was still, I have to say, a science fiction issue. That's how it was called in the past. So my grandparents are from Koszcin. I have a very Greek name. That's my daddy's name. My mother is from the region of Brandenburg today, and both grandparents have been born in Koszcin. So very close to the Polish identity and culture. And I'm extremely pleased also to see more and more the Polish ecosystem turning into a big interest into hydrogen. And this comes very, very timely. And I would like to explain a little bit where we are at the moment and what we are doing. And I will pick up from where Tudor ended with you can see it in my back, the European Clean Hydrogen Alliance. Indeed, 8th of July, it was the day when both this Clean Hydrogen Alliance and the Hydrogen Strategy were launched. But also a third element was launched, which was a communication on a legislation which was supposed to be the 4th gas package, but now got a totally different name. The name is Smart Energy System Integration Package. And here you can see already that the future of the energy system in Europe is very much about different systems to be somehow integrated. And in this perspective, hydrogen plays one of the most important roles. I would take the example of the 11 gigawatt wind park that is planned with the port of Gdynia, also in combination with big companies in Poland like Orlen. We welcomed Orlen last week as a new member of Hydrogen Europe and are very grateful for this strong cooperation. And here you see exactly that the production of renewable energy sometimes can be too much to be absorbed by the grid, by the power grid. In this case, hydrogen as a buffer, as a link between the grids can play an important role. And this is where we think this day was very historical out of different perspectives. So not only the perspective of the hydrogen strategy, but also the launch of the alliance and the start of the legislative process on the integration of energy systems. Now, where are we with regards to the alliance and what are the plans? So first of all, the strategy says very clearly, you, the European industry, you have to deliver 1 million ton of renewably produced hydrogen until 2024. 1 million ton renewably produced hydrogen. It does not say don't produce blue hydrogen. Tudor mentioned it's hydrogen based on natural gas in combination with the CCS technology. But it mentions these 1 million ton, which is a very important challenge because, first of all, there are not so many at the moment, so many installations, applications that could help to go there. But I will come back to this point. The second challenge is for the political system. I've never heard that a government, or in this case, the Commission, says we want during our term, during our mandate, to achieve this goal. It's very rare that they say it because they don't know whether it's achievable or not, but they did it. So we are all under pressure to come up with elements of a policy and elements also of clear finance and funding schemes to help that. And after that, in 2030, this 1 million ton should be ramped up to 10 million ton. So what you see is very clear. Within the next 3 years, 1 million ton in 3 years, and then 10 million ton in the remaining 6 years. That's remarkable. And the tool to implement this strategy is the European Clean Hydrogen Alliance. Tudor mentioned already that more than 500, I think in the meanwhile we have reached the 700 companies have signed up, showing their interest. We will organize the European Clean Hydrogen Alliance together with other associations like the Wind Association, like the Chemical Association, the Automotive Association, but also Solar Power and Gas Infrastructure Association, because we have divided the alliance in 6 different parts of the value chain. So the production of hydrogen, the dissemination distribution via pipeline systems or other possibilities, the use in mobility, in industry, in regional distribution and in residential applications, and finally in balancing the grid, in balancing energy system. So 6 different parts, and we are happy to announce that most of the participants of these round tables are well known to us, because Hydrogen Europe has in the meanwhile some 190 industrial members, and they are all quite actively involved. And we are talking to them, we are preparing them for 2 meetings this year. A first meeting where we take stock of the current projects that we have everywhere, and a second meeting that will then be in end of November, where the list of projects that qualifies to deliver the 1 million ton will be finalized. So it's a moment where we take a decision. It's also a moment where basically the seniority level of the companies involved, CEOs, is justified, because what we want to do there is indeed have clear decision making between policymakers and between CEOs. Poland is quite well represented by the CEO of Orlen, and I think this was also one of the tasks, to have a clear regional balance between the different ecosystems of European member states, where we can see clear differences, of course. Not only between countries that talk a lot and do little. So I myself, I have the Greek and the German citizenship, so I know exactly what the difference is between southern and northern cultures sometimes. But you might be surprised. There are some small countries that are extremely active and do take part in the hydrogen ecosystem, which is by far the number one is the Netherlands, because the Netherlands have already a mature system of different technologies leading to hydrogen, to clean hydrogen being applied. The reason for that is that they had earthquakes in the northern Netherlands because of the extraction of natural gas, especially. So the earthquakes led the political system to end oil and especially gas extractions. So Netherlands very advanced. Portugal, another country which has discovered the possibilities of their wind and sun resources, and they are extremely happy to contribute there. Other countries, I would say the usual suspects like Denmark and Germany, with a lot of renewable energy, are already active in hydrogen for some years. Give you one example: the biggest company producing offshore wind equipment in the world is a Danish company called Ørsted. And Ørsted was like Orlen some years ago. It was the oil and gas producer in Denmark. And it turned from oil and gas definitely into the biggest producer of this part of the renewable technology. Basically, I'm very honest to you, this is the role model that we would like to also showcase, but it's not the only one. We have many other technologies that we would like to also put forward. There is, for instance, the pyrolysis technology, where you can cut methane, natural gas, with high temperatures into clean hydrogen and solid carbon. And that's why the hydrogen is clean. It's not emitting CO2. It's just producing a solid carbon. You can call it carbon black, which then can be used as a feedstock, as a chemical resource for carbon fiber. And more planes, cars are built with carbon fiber. So it's an element that might also play a role in the Polish agenda. That was one of the reasons why one of the biggest companies of Poland, JSW, is also a member of Hydrogen Europe and also quite actively involved into all these ideas. So renewables is the role model and the idol, but not the only one. And this is something what I would like to share also with you. And that's why I'm so happy that the Polish ecosystem more and more becomes a part of it. I can tell you that the maritime applications will, and Tudor mentioned it, in the next years play a quite substantial role. We see that Poland, in this respect, is one of the key European players. And we also see that ammonia production is already happening in Poland to a very high extent, of course, because of the fertilizer industry. And I see here a clear possibility for Poland to take part in this whole debate and to change the fertilizer industry from methane, so fossil-based, to a non-fossil based or a decarbonized with the different technologies that we have. And then, of course, to turn into an economy that showcases how hydrogen can decarbonize industry. And that's exactly what, and Tudor mentioned all the figures, so I'm happy that he did it, so I don't need to show them to you. We want to start the decarbonization process with the low-hanging fruit. And the low-hanging fruit, to be honest, is not mobility, but industry. So decarbonizing the hydrogen that Orlen uses in the refining process. Decarbonizing the hydrogen that big companies like Yara, also in Poland, use in the production of fertilizers. This is something we can do immediately, and we could use the 11 gigawatt production of the offshore wind park in the Baltic Sea with the port of Gdynia as an example to do exactly that. And that would bring Poland directly in front of many, many other countries who definitely have a long way to go. I would like to also use one difficult example, one very politically sensitive example, that's Nord Stream 2. And I would like to share some ideas and views with you on that issue. So first of all, I can tell you that Chancellor Merkel has shown an interest in hydrogen the last 3 weeks, especially. She always was interested. She's by profession, she has studied physics, so she's very interested in these issues. However, shortly after the presentation of the French hydrogen strategy, that was 2 weeks ago, with €7 billion earmarked for hydrogen projects, she contacted us, but she contacted also the French environment because she wants to revitalize the Franco-German nucleus. So she wanted the engine, and she wants to present during the German presidency, so during the next 3 months, a huge Franco-German project on hydrogen. That puts us all under pressure. I like this kind of pressure because it shows also the commitment of her and of her government to really put this high on the agenda. On the other hand, I don't believe in only bilateral things. So I think because there is no such thing as a big Franco-German project so far. There are a lot of Dutch-German, Spanish, French, but Franco-German so far not. But we are engineering something like that. For us, it's very important to include also all the other neighbors. So it might be that in the end, the Franco-German nucleus is very visible, but there will be a lot of connections to other countries as well. Now, let me come to Nord Stream. We like very much the big commitment that nearly all governments take in hydrogen, especially now, I mentioned Portugal, Netherlands, and also Germany and France. But what about Nord Stream? Nord Stream has been stopped by the operators out of many reasons. One reason was possibly the American president. Another reason was definitely the question of the opposition politician Navalny. Now, what if Gazprom or the Russians would say, okay, we understand that it's finished, but we also understand you Europeans, you are turning into the hydrogen direction, and we could deliver with a pyrolysis technology, which again leads to clean hydrogen, and the Russians would have the possibility to do so because they have cheap electricity with some nuclear installations. What if they say Nord Stream will be a hydrogen pipeline? And whoever wants to produce hydrogen that can be fed into this pipeline is welcome to do that. That would change dramatically, of course, first of all, the very narrative of Nord Stream. It then becomes a European and not a bilateral thing anymore. And I can understand that for Poland, this is not only a justified sensitive issue, and you are absolutely right to regard this as a sensitive issue, but now with turning it into hydrogen and opening it for some European partners, it would have a different narrative. And this is an idea that leads us to the following, and I would like to finalize with that. We believe that Europe will become the central marketplace on hydrogen. We want a ton of clean hydrogen to be denominated in euro and not in dollar or renminbi. So we think that with hotspots like Rotterdam, which is already today a very important place for the production and the use of hydrogen, we believe that this could be the stock exchange the stock exchange where the global hydrogen price is made, because hydrogen will become a global commodity. And this is why it's so important that all European countries adopt a hydrogen agenda or a hydrogen strategy. But the most important thing is to somehow liaise these different strategies and to bring them together. This is also what the Hydrogen Alliance, the European Clean Hydrogen Alliance, can do and wants to do, because there's a lot of room also for the member states. This is what these big projects that we were mentioning, the Franco-German projects, can do. We have a special instrument to boost these projects. It's called IPCI, Important Project of Common European Interest. And we are absolutely ready to support the Polish ecosystem to go into that direction. Tomasz Pelc is one of the very good friends that we as Hydrogen Europe have in Poland to bring this further. The active involvement of Orlen and also the active involvement of your government, to be quite clear. We have had several good contacts to government officials is a very good sign. Also the appointment of Mr. Kubov for being a special envoy of the Prime Minister. All these signals are for us very important steps into a better cooperation and into a clear vision. And for me, being, so to say, a child of Europe in a way, it goes without saying that a Franco-German project cannot be a project without the involvement of Poland. I believe very much in the Weimar Triangle idea, which involves all three countries and makes them basically the hub of every development in Europe. Dziękuję bardzo. I want to thank you for your attention. And if there are questions, of course, I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It was very interesting approach and interesting ideas. Thank you very much for a nice word about Poland and Tomek and my friend. But I just one quick question. How European Hydrogen Europe will deal with this 1 million hydrogen target? Will you try to contribute and distribute this part of it and put an obligation for any country, or it will just who is the first and will take the lead?
First of all, of course, there will be instruments like contract for difference. That's one of the favorite instruments that might be chosen, which puts more incentives than forcing member states or companies to produce something. And another incentive is here, that's the 2 times 40 gigawatt initiative that we launched. We launched at the beginning of this year. And the 140 gigawatt will be in Europe and the second 40 gigawatt outside Europe. So 40 gigawatt until 2030, so within the next 10 years. And outside Europe means especially Northern Africa, but also, and this is very important, I think, for Poland, Ukraine. So Ukraine is a country with a dedicated hydrogen strategy already. I have seen the energy minister of Ukraine now 2 times already traveling to Berlin. So they see the context with Berlin more, but not only, they are very involved also in the European context. And what we do is we use the Hydrogen Alliance for that. We try to roll out this investment plan. So when can the electrolyzer capacity be built? By whom? Who pays for that? And who is the owner or who buys that? This is part of the 2 times 40 gigawatt plan. We were very pleased to see that Vice President of the Commission, Timmermans, was the first one to say, I want this. And I want this to be part of the European Green Deal. Okay, he's a Dutch, and the co-author of this plan was also a Dutch professor. And I believe that played also quite a role. However, it's still challenging, but these are the elements that we want to do. So contract for difference as an incentive, a political incentive, and a clear plan where to build up. And as I said, we start at industrial clusters. So the first customer will be petrochemical, chemical, and steel industry. and we would install this electrolyzers, of course, close to the renewable production, but with the customers in industry, which then leads to the first pipeline system, to the first backbones connecting different clusters. That's exactly the way how it should be.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank you very, very much to Tudor and to Jorgo for very interesting presentation, but also for many clues and tips we have to follow and interesting ideas. The idea to turn the Nord Stream 2 into hydrogen pipeline is something new for me, but I think also for many other things and very, very interesting idea. Thank you very much.
Dziękuję. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bardzo dziękujemy za tę bardzo interesującą
Thank you very much
przekaz
for
informacji.
this very interesting information exchange. I believe that to many of us this has been entirely new, if not revolutionary approach.
Wir befinden uns hier vor unserem neuesten Produkt, dem Fronius Sol Hub. Das ist ein dezentraler Knotenpunkt für Sonnenenergie. Hier im Sol Hub wird Sonnenenergie mittels Elektrolyse in Wasserstoff verwandelt. Der Wasserstoff kann dann für wasserstoffbetriebene Fahrzeuge abgetankt werden oder auch zum Beispiel im Winter rückverstromt werden und dann wieder in die Netze eingespeist werden. Dies ermöglicht Energiegemeinschaftsanlagen, Kommunen, Unternehmen, Logistikern, aber auch Landwirten, ihre eigene Sonnenenergie zur Erzeugung von Wasserstoff zu benutzen und mit diesem Wasserstoff emissionsfreie Logistik herzustellen.
From the very beginning, we feel the urge to move and discover the world. We walk, ride, drive, and travel. We're always on the move to learn, work, relax, keep fit, explore, and of course, to meet each other. When we can't, we confine our very nature. We depend on mobility for ourselves and for moving all those things we need and want in life. We've always been very ingenious when it comes to getting ahead faster, more safely, more reliably, and with greater comfort. Today, we need new solutions for new challenges. This is what drives us. This is why we're so passionate about mobility and always go that extra mile to move beyond what's possible today. We are pioneers in transportation, helping our customers keep the world in motion. As their trusted partner, we create ways to move people sustainably and seamlessly, from the first mile to the last. This is our vision. This is what we're moving toward and beyond.